What's going on, everybody? It is Dave Mitchell here, voice of Autism, episode 96. And yes, we're back live streaming. I was going to do a live stream yesterday, but the internet and cable and also the Wi Fi was acting up. With the reason why I did not did a live stream yesterday, but video blog that I did day before that, if you guys listening, you guys know I was using mobile data on that. But yeah, and real quick storm from 3 days ago have finally passed. You can see outside, it is sunny outside. But yeah, but it finally cleared up, and it was crazy on what happened. But wow, that's something I would have to say I do not want to experience that again. Like going through a Category 3 hurricane that hitting the coast, that nerve wracking. And we lost power for almost full days because of it. We had trees falling down on our roof and transformer blowing almost everywhere, like literally. It was nerve wracking and crazy in a way. But that's something I will admit. That was crazy. But yeah. And got a couple more weeks until the first week of fall, September 23rd. First day of fall, and that in almost 2 weeks from now. For people who don't know. But yeah, oh, and I am wearing one of the shirt that my fiance Vel sent me. We have the Filipino flag on it. And me and my lovely fiance Vel we're doing great. And for anybody who wants to go to her YouTube channel, link to her YouTube channel is down the screen down below. She will be here in the US in November. That in 2 months from now. And you gotta know I'll be moving in 2 months to California. But yeah. So I have stuff like that planned for down the line. Oh, and I'll bring it up. If anybody else who is a fellow YouTuber have gotten the letter from a couple of days ago with new changes with YouTube, I find those changes full, not right, and with how YouTube had to pay the SCT over $1 million, the SCT, see, with I say it run by narcissistic parent and toxic parent, have gone too far. Like they literally gone too far, and they're being politically correct with it's up into that. I say, that a little bit too far in my book. For people who don't know, the communists are politically correct, or try to be that way in China. And you know how I'm dead against they are because of how bad they are, and for stuff that they are doing wrong. And because except that they do to autistic people and people on autism spectrum, it kind of disgusting. And with how the SC, the F, I can't, the FTC are doing this stuff, they have set out their boundary. They gone too far. There need to be stuff that need to be set for them that they cannot do. And what they did to YouTube, they gone too far. They're really fucking this generation up by trying to cover up from stuff that happened and thinking what is good for it and what they think of. We've seen how that worked in the end. All the mass shootings and stuff that have been happening, most of them, I guarantee, are caused by narcissistic parent and toxic parent. Just think about it. You can create a monster out of your kid at a young age if you're narcissistic and toxic. So yeah, I just find it fucked up, and it also that needs to stop. Like literally, and stuff that happened, I guarantee stuff like it would not happen if there were not that many narcissistic and toxic parents. Like I guarantee mass shootings, very bad crimes that end up on news, I guarantee those would not be happening if we did not have narcissistic parents. Literally, just think about it. And toxic parents. Because when you treat a kid in a way that you think is right and that is bad, you create a monster. It's disgusting. Like, people don't realize that when you treat a kid a certain way when they're young or a teen, it can really create a monster or somebody that can be bad. Now, there are some kids who, like, now because the internet is seen, and when not the same back almost 20, 30 years ago, now that it's seen, kids are starting to realize and get it, handle and get it control and know what is right and wrong. And the SCT or the FTC is realizing it, so they're going after YouTube and stuff. Well, it's something I just find scummy and wrong. Like literally, because most of the people who are in the FTC are narcissistic, toxic, and they think everybody should be the same and think everything should work the same with everything. Like literally, I had a friend who knows somebody who worked for them that is actually a cousin, and he knows his cousin is narcissistic and toxic, and he's seen what they done, and he said government need to put a control on the FTC or disband the group, literally. And I have to agree with stuff that they did done to YouTube. It did prove my point and my friend point that it need to be disbanded. Just like Autism Speaks. You guys know about me calling Autism Speaks out for what they are. A hate organization. They work with the FTC. So yeah, it's wrong on so many levels. But there are things that I take the FTC related to communism. They don't like achievements. They don't. They hate them. They are no worse than the Chinese Communist Party. So yeah. And yeah, I have friends who are Chinese and some of them are here in the US and they told me crap that going on and the reason why they left their country. So yeah, it's something I know. Because when I went to high school I had friends who were Chinese. And I did talk to them and they said the reason why they left their home country and became a US citizen. So yeah. And with what the crap that China is doing, I have to agree with on live streaming. But yeah, it that reminds me of that just coming into the room for a minute there. Like it's stuff that you have to think about. And stuff that I seen with how they're trying to take land near the Philippines. Where you gotta know my fiance Val. She lived there in the Philippines. It did disgust me. And what they're doing in Hong Kong disgusts me. And how they're trying to take you know, Taiwan, it disgusted that they're trying to do this, trying to force their way of thinking and their way of life onto everybody else. Even in Honduras and Ecuador, what I just find scummy. What it did a scumbag Nazi-like thing to do. Literally, and people are turning blind eye to the stuff that they're doing, and they're getting away with it. Like literally, if I was in the UN, I've been calling them out for Nazi and calling them, oh, you don't say yourself a Nazi? How come you're doing this to your people? How come you're doing this to Hong Kong? How come you're doing this in South China Sea? And how come you're trying to do this to Taiwan? Yeah, we know the stuff that you're doing because Nazis fucking did it almost a century ago. We're not falling for it. Like, that would probably shake their team pell right to the core if the UN know what they're doing. But they're turning a blind eye to it. And just that they're doing to their own people, even to autistics. The reason why I brought it up, and if you guys thinking it's not part of saying that I'm talking about people who are on the autism spectrum, because I did it in a previous live stream. My friend who was from China, they had a sibling who was autistic, and the Chinese government took advantage. They literally take advantage and try to turn it into their own pawn in their own game. Like literally, it's something that disturbed me and made me glad that I was not born in China. They will literally try at nothing to turn people who are autistic into their own soldier and their own cog in their machine. They don't think of people as people. They think of a part of a machine and part of their property, literally. And if you did get an autistic person who are on the autism spectrum just right, you can turn it into a weapon if you did get it at a young enough age and brainwash and manipulate people on the spectrum. If you do it to them at a young age, you can really fuck it up and really you are at weapon with. I'm glad that I'm not in China. I guarantee most people in the Chinese army are autistic, and I I feel bad for them because one, some of them are probably taken in at a young age, indoctrinated to let that go on. But yeah, literally, it's up that I did find fucked up, and they rely heavily on ABA therapy with it, check with child abuse or abusive dog training for kids. And you gotta know how I feel about that. China used that on at a young age to indoctrinate us. And exactly, I noted for people who are autistic, it's exactly something that they use against us. In China, they're using it as a tool to manipulate us into being soldiers and a piece of their country. And for people that it backfire on, they really screw them up. Like literally, it's something that I'm very concerned about. Like you gotta know Nazi killed people like back then. If they realized it, they would instead not be killing them, but brainwashing it and using it as a piece of their machine or their army. It would have been very horrible. Now, it's not that they did what horrible, but they did both. There are reasons why I call China the next Nazi country because it's up that they're born, born. There are reasons why. The signs are all there, but everybody's turning a blind eye to it. They're the next Nazi Germany. but everybody turning a blind eye to it. Literally, like they're probably going to get into a war with some other country, or even with the U.S. War probably was to. I've been keeping track on stuff that's been going on, but yeah. And with how they use people on the autism spectrum, that is terrifying. That they use people like as a weapon. It's just fucked up stuff. Like literally, they even use it's messed up in a way. But yeah. Now I know it's going to fall for them anyway. Like stuff that they do against us, it's going to fall. It's only a matter of time. Like now, it is a scary thing to think about, but a lot of people don't realize how bad it really is. You know? Oh, everything lagging on my tablet. But it's something that I did find messed up. Because I know for a fact that what they do to us is disgusting. We are not part of your machine. We're a freaking human being. Saying that get me like it make my stomach turn. Is what it does. It really does make my stomach turn. And stuff like this, they get away with on almost a daily basis. Plus, with what I said about earlier about they indoctrinated people on the autism spectrum into their armies and their cog of their machine. The cog of machine, I mean more effectively in a way. They and one that don't fall into it and don't fall for it, they institutionalize them, like put them in mental asylums. Like literally, they still do that. But it's just sickening. It really is. And it's something degrading. But yeah. Now let me go to something else that I find interesting. But yeah. With all stuff that is going on in the autism community, I mean it's crazy.
Sarah Jane Harvey is being attacked by Twitter trolls. Let's help her with some backup.
Mm-hmm.
Raised fist, raised fist, raised fist.
Mm-hmm. That right. A fellow autistic being attacked by trolls who are narcissistic neurotypicals. And it's something I'm calling out. Like them narcissistic neurotypicals are pretty bad. Like literally, I do not.
Sarah, are you in here? I wanted to show you some love and support after what's been said after you working so hard. Can we get a show of love and support for Sarah in the comments?
Like it's up that been going on. Like but I've been calling out with the narcissistic behavior and all that. You have to agree with me. you accept that it's going on. But yeah, it is crazy. But what I said earlier, like what I said with China and how it was related with autism, it was part of how they indoctrinated and tried to turn her into like one of their own soldiers, an own weapon. That's the reason why I brought that up. If you guys know what I mean. Like it's a sick man. Now it is crazy on what's going on.
Forget the headlines for a second. How is it appropriate to make every autistic meltdown story and freak show mascot as if we were mysterious creatures meant to either entertain an NT audience with our quirks or scare them with our moments of distress?
Exactly. It's something that my friend is bringing up. Like where the article right here. I'm not going to show, but it's just disgusting. Every time an autistic have a meltdown or something, they use it against us. It's a disgusting dehumanization thing that they are doing to us. Like it's fucking sickening. Like literally, how could you accept and let something like that go on? It's just unacceptable. Like literally. But yeah.
The sweary autistic stands with Agony Audie. She persuaded me to advocate, and this page wouldn't exist if it weren't for her videos, posts, and hard work. She doesn't deserve the shit she gets when she's working so damn hard for us. Pop over to her page today if you aren't familiar with her, give her a like and a follow and comment your support. Show her some love today, Audie's blue heart. Big up Agony Audie, advocate extraordinaire.
Mhm. I'm a friend of hers too. Like Agni Adi is a fellow YouTuber and a friend of mine. For the people who are wondering, she is autistic too. Plus, she have a kid, and there's something that we really agree with her, and she is a big activist.
A lot of folks are reading our entry questions and seem to misunderstand the last question. Do you understand why functioning labels, including Asperger's, can be harmful? If no, are you willing to learn? This does not mean labels are harmful. Diagnosis is a label. Diagnosis is harmful. Identifiers are harmful. Autistic is harmful. Autism is harmful. Diagnosis can be an important tool in getting what you need as an autistic person in the way of accommodations, but it can also be a hindrance, which is addressed in our self-diagnosis FAQ, and that decision is a very personal one to make for yourself or your child. Using the identifiers/labels autistic and autism are important and necessary. This group is all about educating, advocating, and celebrating autistics. After all, this does mean Asperger's is harmful, ASP is harmful, high functioning is harmful, low functioning is harmful, moderate is harmful, severe is harmful, mild is harmful, level 1/2/3 is harmful. Functioning labels are descriptors of alleged functioning based on outward perception of the person by non-autistics. These are harmful because they are completely inaccurate and arbitrary. But most of all, functioning labels are harmful because they are used for one of two things. These labels are used to deny agency or independence to autistic people, low functioning, severe. These labels are used to deny supports and accommodations and even disability payments to autistic people, Asperger's, ASP, high functioning, mild, level 1 inch. Moderate and level 2 inches can go in either direction, depending on a few factors. We have a separate post about why Asperger's is additionally problematic, and spoiler, it has to do with Nazism and eugenics as well as functioning labels. Functioning labels have been repeatedly found by autistics to be unhelpful and harmful, and researchers have finally gotten on the same page. Functioning labels hurt autistic people. To expand on the uselessness of functioning labels and levels for autism, levels and functioning labels were created with the intention of making it simple to address the needs of someone based on perception by an outsider. This idea is inherently flawed, but even if it
Mm-hmm.
weren't, there's a deeper issue. It is much simpler to say the specific support needs of the person and address them than to generalize that they need a lot or a few. Saying what each
Exactly.
autistic person individually needs is more important and useful to everyone than giving an arbitrarily decided upon grouping based on your perception of their outward behavior. So, how do
Yeah.
they determine these useless levels, and how did they formerly determine these useless functioning labels that are now no longer diagnosed? Someone who has minimal knowledge of autism and is not autistic looks at the outward slash overt behaviors of the autistic person and makes a determination based on how stereotypically autistic they appear outwardly. This means that nonverbal autistics are almost always grouped into low functioning or
Mm-hmm.
level 3 inches because they do not speak, which makes them appear more autistic to an outsider. We know that speech and communication are not good indicators of a person's ability to function, and
Exactly.
we know that nonverbal does not mean they cannot communicate. What they
Mm-hmm.
are measuring, which they often do not realize, is the autistic person's ability to mask. Masking is something that almost all autistic people do, consciously or subconsciously, which is
That is
essentially to
true.
hide your autistic traits to appear outwardly more realistic. If someone speaks, makes eye contact, and does not do obvious stimming like hand flapping during the limited interaction they have with the evaluator, they will likely be classed as level 1 inch or high functioning because they are masking quite a lot. It is harmful to base these arbitrary categories on outward perception of
Mm-hmm.
masking because that does
That is
not show
true.
what supports the person truly needs. Someone who is verbal may still need more supports in other areas than someone who is nonverbal. For example, I think I've talked your ears off enough, I'll leave it at this.
Exactly. And that is true right there. These labels are technically something that I think is bad.
My first blog post in a while, hopefully it helps somehow. I saw a video in another group, and I didn't want to stay silent. I wanted to try and share some of what I know about to help in some way. It's not much, and really, just an explanation of information, readily available online, literally from Wikipedia, but I thought it might help somehow.
Mm-hmm. It was it kind of crazy.
Again, we have more than just asterisk, 5 senses, and when we say listen to autistic people, here's a great example. Why? Human beings have 28 senses that we currently know of, and may have more, not just 5. Those
Mm-hmm.
28 senses any
Mm-hmm.
combination of them, or any one of them can cause sensory overload and a sensory triggered
Exactly.
meltdown. Further, any of those could also be lacking in their sensitivity, and people might not get the right amount of info to and from their bodies and brains. And some people might get their signals mistaken for others, a wires crossed phenomenon, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
28 different senses. That's 378 different lines of communication, and 268,435,454 possibilities of combinations that can
Mm-hmm.
result in a meltdown or sensory overload.
That is true.
If every sense is functioning as intended if they're not, I don't think I can even do the calculations for that. I even had to go to Twitter to ask for help on the initial calculation in the first place. The senses we have: 5 basic senses or Aristotelian senses. 1. Sight. 2. Hearing. 3. Taste. 4. Smell. 5. Touch. Other senses. 6. Balance or equilibrioception. 7. Acceleration. 8. Temperature or thermoception. 9. Proprioception. 10. Pain or nociception. 11. Magnetoception. 12. Sexual stimulation, interoception related. 13. Hunger. 14. Pulmonary stretching breathing rate. 15. Peripheral chemoreceptors feeling of suffocation if CO2 levels are high. 16. Chemoreceptor
Mm-hmm.
trigger zone induces vomiting when needed or triggered. 17. Cutaneous receptors in the skin touch, pressure, vasodilation in
Mm-hmm.
the skin, aka blushing. 18. Stretch receptors in gastrointestinal tract senses gas distension, bloating. 19. Sensory receptors in esophagus feeling from swallowing, vomiting, or during acid reflux.
Mm-hmm.
20. Sensory receptors in the pharynx mucosa, similar to the ones in the skin senses foreign objects in pharynx to trigger gag reflex. 21. Sensory receptors in the bladder and rectum knowing when you do and do not have to use the restroom. 22. Stretch sensors that sense dilation of various blood vessels, example, headache caused by vasodilation of brain arteries. 23. Cardioception perception of heart activity. 24. Ultraviolet radiation sensing plays a role in pigmentation and sunburn. 25. Receptors relays blood pressure information to the brain to maintain proper, normal blood pressure. Senses not based on an organ. 26. Time or conception how the passage of time is perceived and experienced. 27. Agency or sense of agency, the subjective feeling of having chosen a particular action. 28. Familiarity, the feeling that the event was previously experienced or known. These are all the things needed to take into consideration when someone is having sensory overload, when an autistic person is having a meltdown. Autistic people know this, we know it well, even though some of us may not even realize we know it. We can recognize it, we see it, we live it. So, if someone who is autistic comes to you and tries to let you know what your child or loved one is going through, maybe at least listen to what we have to say. You don't have to agree, you don't have to literally obey us, but at least hear us out. Maybe we do know something about it, and if you really want to help your loved ones, what do you have to lose from listening to someone who's lived it and is living it? We're not giving you medical advice, we're giving you suggestions from our lived experiences and what we know from our fellow autistics. Take what we tell you, bring it to doctors, professionals, if you do not trust us, and ask them about it. We can give you all the information about being autistic you could ever want. It's up to you what you do with that information.
Sadly, some parents, they don't do that. Some parents will literally take advice from a doctor instead of the person who is autistic. Literally. And it is same. It is damn fucking same. Like, literally. And sometimes some parents use it as a like fucked up way.
Question about the wider disability rights movement. I say disabled person as I consider myself disabled and not a person with a disability. I was at a conference lately and most of the wording was persons with disability. I know some of the disabled speakers referred to disabled person. Is this like the autism language debate where disabled people generally prefer identity first language and the rest think it's PC to use person first, or is the wider movement supportive of person first? Thanks.
Yeah, I heard about it. It's crazy. That's it. 1 minute. Kind of acting up, and like it's crazy, but it's been out that I've been thinking about. Okay, there we go. But yeah, well, stuff that's been going on.
Bleacher Exposed, Diane Rhodes. This is the first post of this kind. I was always in the background reporting, but since this article by NBC was released, that ship has sailed. Not saying it's a bad thing, it's just different. Since the start, I have been monitoring the CD Autism group on Telegram. Telegram is an anonymous chat service that is located in the UA and they will not do anything about the child abuse taking place on their platform. Believe me, I have tried. This is where the bleachers have moved since the Facebook group have been shut down. One name that has stood out to me is Diane Rhodes. Who is she? She is a parent of a large family located in the state of Michigan, USA. In May she started the protocol on her 7-year-old grandson. This is how it starts. They base the dose off the ATAC scores. ATAC is a parent scoring system. It is not used by any doctor or specialist. It should be used when trying to help your child, ever. She even tells people where to buy it. Not only is she doing it to her own children, she tells other people where to get this dangerous substance to abuse their children. The cycle never ends. We have not heard from her in some time until today. She has been dosing her adult daughter. Carrie Rivera, the bleach queen, tells this parent that it is not the CD, it's the Chinese food. Chinese food does not cause people to not be able to walk, this poison does. Both instances of abuse has been reported to the proper authorities and the FDOC. So far no action has been taken. What will it take for protective services to protect the children and vulnerable adults? Her husband has no idea that she is doing this. He needs to know so she can be brought to justice. She must be stopped.
Here, Jane, I have contact with friends who in law enforcement. I can send it to them, and they can actually get investigate. Wow, I do have friends who are law enforcement, but it also this up need to stop. People like these need to be stopped. It's disgusting. It really is. Like the bleaching thing, that need to quit. And parents who do this, they need to be criminalized, and there need to be a long prison sentence for parents like this to teach them and send a method out there saying, look, bleaching it is not okay. Doing to it not okay. Trying to force it to be something that we're not is not okay. Literally, all that need to quit. Literally, it's not okay. And thinking, trying to make that form them into something that you want to see or try to form them in somebody that you want them to be, it's disgusting and it almost Nazi like.
Finally finished. Thanks Fiona for the last minute changes before I posted to Facebook. Fiona did. Please give feedback and suggest improvements so this can continue to improve and be the best it can be. Also, please email Andrew Smith at Berry.gov if you would like a PDF copy. The first version of the Inclusive Activity Toolkit is now ready to share. It includes 1. How the sensory environment can be overwhelming for people and what accommodations can be put into place for that applies to every indoor space including schools etc. 2. How to plan an event/activity to make it more accessible for neurodivergent people. 3. Adjustments to make on the day of the event/activity. Please feel free to use/share and email me Andrew Smith at Berry.gov if you would like a PDF copy.
I know, but yeah, if we work on a lot of stuff in equal and all that, it can really help out the autistic community. And with segregation, discrimination, and ableism that are going on against our community, we need to start working on telling people who do this stuff we are not going to put up with it anymore. Enough is enough.
Excellent news for anyone following the Tanya Marshall saga. I just got a response from her board and they have taken my complaint very seriously. They agreed that her social media behavior and her behavior towards me was unacceptable. They have stated clearly that rapid onset gender dysphoria is not a legitimate diagnosis, and therefore, Tanya should not be sharing it and discussing it publicly. She tried to claim a paper, which she then didn't even send them, but they proved it was, but this paper was in disrepute from the journal and AI altered. She is still allowed to practice, but will be closely monitored by a supervisor who will provide reports on whether she has changed her approach to the board. She is also required to write a number of reflective reports on her behavior. Thank you to everyone for your support on this. If you see or hear anything else that she goes to professional, please make sure you do report it to the opera.
Yeah, stuff like that actually happened, and that was a good thing. It one win for the autistic community, right there. Hooah!
I am in a dark place again, just the right side of suicide, because I feel there is no way out and no help. Really, there isn't. People around me may feign to understand, but do they? I hate myself more than I worry about what they think as well. It is the accumulation of a lifetime of being subprime. The final straw is those supposed expletive deleted helplings, and really being cut off because it is time limited. Well, how would you feel? I am hoping against hope that I can summon up resources, mental, physical, and financial to accomplish what I had set out and promised to do before things started taking a turn for the worse. Sorry people, I couldn't do it, so I shall offer up my life instead, and commit seppuku. Well, that is how I feel. I feel I might just be able to do what I am expected to tomorrow, but then that will be another journey in pursuit of nothing, and nowhere because I cannot see the task through. I feel I am gradually letting go of things because I am just incapable, and every time I do that, I am another rung down in a deeper hole and harder to climb out of. I am going through the motions, and pretty shitty motions, pardon the pun. I need a miracle to get through it. If I do go where I am supposed to be tomorrow, it is going to take a gargantuan effort, and if more of me is inclined to try than to give up, but surely I can vent about it, let people know how I really feel deep down. Thing is, there are some folk who just don't want to hear. I need strength beyond physical strength. Anyway, I send out one of those forthright emails about it all, elitism, privilege, and all that, which I may well regret when those chickens come home to roost.
Okay, here, Jane, the reason why stuff like this happen, because ableism, a lot of racism, discrimination, sexism, and a lot of other disgusting scum stuff that people do against autistic people. Like literally, like it's an actual thing that do happen.
I recently spoke to Kevin Hoare from Waterford about his experiences with Baba. Kevin is now 22 and he explains how the negative effects of applied behavioral
Hmm.
analysis in his school still haunt him today. I can't say it was hell and a half, but some days you just tire of being regimented and told that you have to be someone else in order to get on in life. Can you tell us a little about what led to your diagnosis and what life was like for you then? I was diagnosed approximately in 2008, so more or less between the age of 10 and 11. I was initially misdiagnosed with that, as a result of the autism diagnosis being a relatively new thing at the time, but my traits began to quickly differ from the information that experts had. But eventually, they worked it out to be like 90/10 autism and AD. I always disbelieve that the latter plays a part because I have met people with the neurotype and I share virtually nothing in common with them. Can you tell us a little about what led to your diagnosis? How it began was that I always knew I was, to coin the cliche, not like the others. For most of my life before diagnosis, I was a very angry, very emotionally sensitive child who didn't understand why everything and everyone seemed so alien around me. My mother assumed that I inherited the schizo gene ableist, but no one is perfect from my father because I would be prone to fits of unbridled rage and would often talk to myself or claim to see things that others could not. In fourth standard of primary school, a teacher took notice of how I wasn't like anyone they had ever met, but as you probably know, teachers have to be extremely careful about how they go about telling a
Hmm.
student's parents to look into something. But this one didn't care to dance around the problem. They told my mother that there was definitely something abnormal about me, and if I didn't get the help and support I needed, I would be screwed later on in life. I don't know the exact details of their conversation. I am paraphrasing based on how my
People like
mother
that.
phrased the situation much later on. What was life like for you after your diagnosis? The detrimental thing was once the therapists and the like had finished assessing me and figuring out the autism, they provided absolutely no follow up explanation, help, or support for my mother, just basically, okay, this is what's up with him, thanks for coming, you know where the door is, ta ta. So my mother had to go out and find out literally everything all by herself. Reading books on it, taking courses, finding other parents with children like me. I admit she doesn't have it all right, but you have to admire just how far a parent is willing to go for their child to give them a good life. It took me a very long time to be okay with it because, while I understood now why I was different, it made me more jaded about the way people treated me and one
Hmm.
another. I began to believe people when they said I was a freak, among other assorted slurs. What kind of therapies did you have? I don't know the exact name of the therapies because they never told
Hmm.
me much about them, but it was mostly to do with word building, simple mathematic problems, building social skills.
Here, Jane, I went through ABA therapy since I was in kindergarten. Like I went through it every day of school. Summer was the only time I was able to get off. And here a kicker. They were dumb enough to let me off like literally that 48-hour shit. They did not do it to me during the summertime. Literally at all. But let me get that up. Like literally that was the only time that they did not even did it. And kicker is that 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 was probably one of the reasons why I would not that I did not got PTSD that badly in the first place because of me getting off during the summer because I really looked forward to summer when I was younger because it made me feel like finally the hell can end like literally in a way. And I think that one thing that added into factor reason why I did not turn out with the problems in a way. But yeah, like literally, they even they teach me the same damn thing almost every year when I was in high school, even in middle school, elementary school. It took me so long to prove them wrong and to put them back. But it got harder when I got to high school because some of them were harder. And this is where the problem with our school system and ABA therapy run, and reason why we need to get rid of it. Because they teach the damn same motherfucking thing that don't work to everybody. Like it pisses me off that they do this.
And some worksheets that challenged my ability to think outside of my own perspective. These were all more or less conducted within school hours. I had always had an extremely rich vocabulary but struggled with actually pronouncing them a lot. I've had a slight stammer almost my entire life, and sometimes my brain will get stuck on certain letters like F or S, much to everyone else's amusement. I can laugh about it now as an adult. They attempted to strengthen my fine motor skills, but since I had been diagnosed late for a child, it was sort of like pissing in the wind trying to get better. What I remember most is this board game where you had to roll a die, and depending on where you land, you have to answer a question about a hypothetical social situation, either at home, school, or out and about. Suffice it to say, I got a lot of these wrong because the right answer was basically comply like a good little boy. In most cases, though, I felt patronized and basically othered going through this. I can't.
Mm-hmm. Luckily, they did not did this part to me. The one thing that I say for South Carolina APA and people who run it are very crappy. That I will have to admit, with a good damn thing for autistics. Because unless you live in downtown Charleston or McCloskey City, or if you live like near, but because I lived out on Solomons Island at the time and out here, it was a complete different story because they did not and they were not able to do the bullshit to me. So I was lucky.
In most cases, though, I felt patronized and basically othered going through this. I can't lie when I say that it gave me some insight into how neurotypicals think and reason, which, in my opinion, is exhausting and illogical, but that's a
Mm-hmm.
separate interview. This sort of continued a little into secondary school, but by this time, I was in full resistance mode, mostly because, while the people who worked with me were qualified to work with me, the way they talked about and treated me was so two-faced and skin-crawly. I spent
Exactly. People who work with who are ABA therapists, they are scummy and crap. Like it is sketchy and it fucked up and it unacceptable. There need to be a ban on ABA therapy. ABA therapy need a ban, and people who do it need to be arrested and put in jail.
I spent at least one or two classes a day in the AS unit while they tried to hammer these things into us, forcibly removing my comfort items if I wouldn't perform well, punishing me when they made me upset, and I acted out. I accept my part of the problems, but how can a specialist do wrong if their only critic is their student? They told me to stop fidgeting, which is like telling a tree not to grow. Would you recommend ABA to parents of autistic children? I would not recommend ABA therapy to parents in absolute. Did you find it beneficial and helpful? Yes and no. ABA is somewhat built on meaning principles of giving the patient the tools and skills they need to navigate a world that was not.
I would say no, all the way, because it teaches ableistic, stereotypic, segregated type of way of thinking and acting.
Yes and no. ABA is somewhat built on well, meaning principles of giving the patient the tools and skills they need to navigate a world that was not built for them. It's just the application and the way people rigidly follow it to the letter that is detrimental and abusive to patients. Teaching us to assimilate rather than validating our difference and helping it thrive in the neurotypical world. What sort of punishments did you receive? Punishments weren't anything drastic, just like lines, demerits, rewards slash consequence based motivations to do what they wanted. I know I've had it easy compared to some
Mm-hmm.
cases I've seen. Not a punishment, but something I really disliked was that they also had a damned emphasis on eye contact. They would reinforce by sharply ordering me to look at them. I got past this by managing to appear like I'm looking at them, but I'm actually looking right past them. What advice would you like to give to parents of a newly diagnosed child? My biggest advice to parents of newly diagnosed autistic kids: I know you don't understand what they're going through, and even hundreds of hours of study can't truly give you the insight that they have, but listen and support them. Too often relationships suffer because the parent doesn't see the problem that the child does and refuses to understand. But it's a two-way street in that sense. I know
Mm-hmm.
from my own experience and that of other people like me that therapists are not your friends, and even if they appear to be trying to help you, are not always to be trusted. I
That's
did have
true.
ABA all the way through secondary school. However, in my final year, a new person took over looking after our group who, based on my interactions with him, actually knew what the hell he was talking about. And while he treated us all as the adults we wanted to be, I even said to him at my graduation that he honestly did more to help and support me on my way to adulthood in a single school year than the previous two had done in 5 years. What is life like for you now? I admittedly have some animosity toward neurotypicals who believe they know what it's like
Mm-hmm.
because their cousins, uncles, drug dealers' dog's left foot is autistic. I previously studied a Bachelor of Business in my local college, but due to personal mental health issues that came to a head at the worst possible time, and I was unable to complete it in its entirety. I've had an affinity for business ever since I first took business class in first year. Is there anything else you'd like to add about your experience? Well, there was a short time, when I was 12, where a rep from Barnardo's attempted to work me into a schedule with the sticky cards reminding me to do all the things I needed to. There was a whole big meeting with my family, which made me extremely on high alert because everyone was talking about me like I wasn't even there and would fake smile at me when I looked to them in confusion. And all
That happened to me a lot at me, like literally. That actually happened to me a lot.
And also during first year, I was taken to this place in my city, same place I was assessed, where once a week I met with several other kids on the spectrum and they tried to teach us about the same stuff we already knew. We were quite varied. It didn't continue after that. I can't remember if they just stopped meeting or if I specifically asked my mother to take me out of it. Did you ever tell anyone how much the behavioral approaches in your school were affecting you? I was very vocal about how much I didn't enjoy it to the people who were doing it, but I didn't realize at the time the true extent of its horror. I mean, horror in the general sense, as I heard accounts of other people who went through it, either from here or overseas. There was even this speaker that came into my then partner's social care class to talk about autism, as she was a mother of an autistic person, and showed us his entire ABA experience from childhood to adolescence. Think she had a book too. But the main thing that stuck with me was when they were practicing eye contact, they would literally force the child to face the direction they wanted by grabbing his tiny child face. I can't say it was
Oh, the train is going by. Yes, trains are running again, by the way. If you've seen that video put on Friday, intermodal train.
I can't say it was hell and a half, but some days you just tire of being regimented and told that you have to be someone else in order to get on in life. Your classic quiet hands, inside voice, do these simple assignments we know you can do percent. Identify the feeling based on the face or by the situation. Barnardo's had lofty goals for me during the meeting when I was 12, but I only managed to do one thing that I agreed to set out to do out of the many, which was tie my shoes, which I was told by specialists would be impossible for me to learn. Granted, it took me until I was 17, but I still got it. They didn't try to teach me to tie shoes because it was assumed I would never get it. I decided on my own that I wasn't going to just give up because someone else said it was impossible.
Mhm. That thing about ABA therapy, it don't work. It's actually abusive dog training and it's disgusting. But people on autism spectrum like me, that is disgusting and it's just fucked up. Like literally.
Asking autistics, have you ever been told you can't be autistic? August 22nd, 2019 by Jody Murphy. One comment. Events.
I
Suddenly I had the answer by Krista Hallmans.
okay, I had something like this happen to me back when I first started live streaming. First time I started live streaming and when I'm doing video calls, somebody commented saying I'm not autistic without a full lie when I was. And the thing was that I diagnosed at a young age when I was 17 months old. I was still an infant at the time. And it was back in the early 2000s. But yeah.
By Krista Hallmans, neurodivergent rebel. I was born autistic. I've been autistic my entire life. And I will die autistic. This information shook my worldview when it finally came to light just before my 30th birthday. I often relate my story to The Ugly Duckling by Hans Christian Andersen and the poor little swan who grew up believing he was an ugly duck. His knowledge of the truth and my finding the truth that I wasn't a broken non-autistic were both life-changing events. Suddenly I had the answers to my questions. I understood me in an entirely new way. I felt reborn. It was exciting to understand finally. Knowing there were many like me when I had often felt like the lone weirdo was comforting. I am not a freak, not a failure, just autistic. The nasty names I had for myself began to melt away. It explained so much my difficulties, the trouble in school, at work, with my peers, and in relationships. The constant misunderstandings and feelings of people putting words in my mouth and assigning meanings to my actions that weren't there. It was all just a perspective problem. My perspective was different, and people,
Mm-hmm.
often myself included, assume everyone has the same point of view. Before I was diagnosed, I didn't understand how differently two people can perceive and experience the same world or situation. I had no vocabulary for sensory processing differences or stimming. I thought everyone had these same issues with lighting and the environment. All I knew was that the rules said no sunglasses or hats, indoors or at school. I thought we were just supposed to tough it out. I had no idea supermarket lighting didn't send stabbing pain into everyone's eyes. I finally understood how to take care of myself. I was ready to implement new plans, but my strategies would often be resisted by commentators who argued that I didn't need to do things in a new way because I couldn't possibly be autistic or wasn't really autistic. We tend to think gaslighting is an intentionally malicious act where one person is attempting to manipulate or gain more power over another. They cause the victim to question their sense of reality. Is it possible for someone to unintentionally or accidentally gaslight another individual? If it's accidental, is it still gaslighting? Whatever it was, it made coming out of the autistic closet very difficult. It seemed like everyone I tried to share with wanted me to keep this new information to myself. Reactions ranged from no, you're not, and are you sure you want to admit that publicly to this makes so much sense, and everything makes sense now. The last two comments were from a friend who's known me since preschool, long before I ever learned to mask. She had the same reaction I did. People who see me today can't fathom how far I've come or the work it took to get here. I would never have guessed you were autistic. It's supposed to be a compliment, but it's not because it implies there's something wrong with being autistic in the first place. I pick up a mask and hide who I am in certain situations because I know that acting in my usual way, just being myself, can get me into trouble sometimes. I dream of a day when no autistic has to mask and tend to avoid
Mm-hmm.
people and situations that require me to hide.
Exactly.
Although autistic people with well-developed masks may do better in certain situations compared to autistics without masking skills, masking comes with a substantial cost and may lead to physical exhaustion, anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, and burnout. This is why the
Mm-hmm.
unmasking of an autistic after late discovery is so important. We may need to unpack and rediscover ourselves and our autistic nature. We may have to learn to stand up for ourselves when people dismiss our needs
That's
because we've been
true.
dismissing our own needs for too long. We may have been taught to repress our stims or that sensory protection is socially unacceptable. After years of searching, wondering, feeling weird, broken, and defective, I had the answer I was autistic. I finally understood myself, had the answers to my questions, and was excited to share this revelation with the world. I was simultaneously a whole new person, but also the same person I had always been. However, I now had a new problem getting people who have always seen me one way to challenge their view of me with this new diagnosis. You can't be autistic, people say, followed by some reason that doesn't even mean anything concerning autism unless you only know the lousy media stereotypes. I knew I wasn't alone in this phenomenon. How many other autistic people have been told, you can't possibly be autistic? How many ignorant reasons? Time for the magic of the internet. Hash actually autistic. Hash asking autistics, have you ever been told you can't be autistic? What reason was given? You cannot be autistic. You are nothing like my 4-year-old nephew. I turned 50 this year, and for the past 45 years, no one ever compared me to 4
That's
slash
true.
5-year-old children. That was until I came out as autistic. Now it is the most common response to telling them I am autistic. Monique Crane, admonic Crane, being married, being pretty.
Okay, here, team. When I was diagnosed with autism, there are a lot of people, even when I started doing my video vlogs and live streaming, there were people who said that you don't look autistic, you don't act autistic. And that really pissed me off because one, autism don't have a look. People don't act a certain way. Literally, it's a narcissistic stereotype that the people are saying that need to quit. Oh, by wait, fall will begin in about 2 weeks from now. But it's so narcissistic. It's so messed up. It's something that need to quit. I was diagnosed at 17 months old. I was still a baby or an infant at the time. So yes, I was very young. And it was in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. hmm And I was barely, barely two when I got diagnosed. So yeah. And them saying that you don't look autistic, that it did disgusting. Like literally, what in the hell?
Being pretty, being able to hold a conversation, being on Twitter, being able to do TV, being female, being able to write for a living. Laura James, at Girl Badiaga, regularly. Because I don't look like a young boy with no spoken language who is having a meltdown, or because I'm not in a care home. Indeed not. Difficult to run international organizations whilst living in those. In Mehmet, at N Mehmet. Basically being capable of something. Damien Milton, at Milton Damien. Because I can use the internet. That one has been said multiple times. Antoinette Tatro, at Autistic in 5. You can't suddenly start saying you're number autistic. You can't be, we'd have noticed. From work colleagues. You don't sound autistic to me from medical professional.
Here, Jane, autistic don't have a sound. It just don't. Everybody is different. Some can speak, some cannot, and a lot of their voices sound different.
You don't sound autistic to me from medical professional who'd never met me on the phone. Cost Michael, autistic autism and aging consultant
Medical
at Autis
professional,
page.
really?
I had actual therapists and psychiatrists saying, but you have empathy, so you can't be autistic. For
Okay, here, Jane, autistic, we do have empathy. We do. Like, someone can feel it a lot more than other people. And that is a myth in a stereotypic, narcissistic way that they think about us.
For over a decade, it was pretty much the only reason I couldn't get a diagnosis. Like, multiple doctors saying straight to my face, you have empathy, so you can't be. Josh Jones, at Jonestown. Reasons I've included but not been limited to. I wasn't like their autistic nephew. I'm not nonverbal. I make eye contact. I wasn't in special ed in school. I went to college. I was married. I have children. I'm too high functioning. I don't look autistic. I'm not screamy. The disaster autist, at MRMCQ wordy. Read more #asking autistics articles by Krista Hallmans, neurodivergent rebel. Our website at Geek Club Books is a platform for autistic voices, positive autism, advocacy and education, and sharing autism resources we think you will want to know about. Here are additional categories we cover and questions we explore.
hmm And here, Jane, it's something that like part of segregation and discriminating ableism that neurotypicals do to us. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's something that I did find disheartening and disgusting. Like, literally, just think about it. Like, autistic people, people on the autism spectrum, nobody is the same at all. Like, literally, every one of us is different, including me, including my fiance Velbaria. But I have to link to our YouTube channel down in the description down below. But everybody is different on the spectrum, including me. And yeah, people on the spectrum, we can live happy life. We can have kids. We can get married. We can do a lot of stuff. And for those people who say that we cannot, they are narcissistic, neurotypical, ableistic, downright racist type of people who don't think of everybody in a unique way. Literally, it's messed up, but those people are dangerous. People like that are the reason why we had wars. I'll bring up one. Adolf Hitler. He was one. A lot of Arab people, even the Taliban, even China, they're doing that shit. A lot of places, like literally, just think about it. It's up that we need to work on because these type of people who date it against people who are autistic and who are, you know, different than them, they literally are narcissistic, neurotypical who go after us. It's it messed up. And we need to start putting our foot down and saying enough is enough. Because if we don't, stuff like that is going to keep happening. There won't be a lot more violence against people who are autistic. And for us, a lot of bad stuff. And I mean it. And if we want to have a change and work for ourselves, we need to start standing up to them and telling them enough is enough. And here is a picture of my lovely fiance Velvaria. For people who don't know, my fiance Vel, she is Filipino, and a couple months ago she did a 1 year anniversary video for me on YouTube. For our 1 year anniversary of being engaged. But me and her, we've been engaged for over a full year now. And it's crazy on stuff that's been going on. But yeah. Let me find it.
You know what? Thank you for understanding me.
Where is it?
Hey, sweetie, I hope you have a good day. I'm sorry for not making a good response on time. I'm not responding on time because I was in a seminar and we'll be having a seminar about business today. And, have a great day, sweetie, okay?
That was one for my fiance.
Yeah, this one is very nice. This is a school for business and it's beautiful here. And, I love this one. It's a nice backdrop.
Yep, that's going up in my mama here.
You know what? Thank you for understanding me. And yeah, I'm sorry again if I cannot reply or respond on time because the Wi-Fi is very choppy. Okay.
But that my lovely fiance Velvaria. uh, Video chat that I did with her the day before, or like the morning before, or hold, let me say it. Morning that I was getting ready to go to the Autism New Network meeting, I did a video chat with her about an hour to 2 hours before I left to go there. And me and her did a video chat. And I'm asking her how I look. Video chat that I did with her. Good. It looked good. It's something that I can remember for a long time, but go down from that. But it's crazy. And my fiance Val, she did a 1 year anniversary for me. Like it looked crazy, but she did one. And oh my god, that I, it made me nearly cry when she did that. But yeah, she is my lovely fiance. We've been together for almost 3 years. Next April will make 3 years that me and her have been together. When, but yeah, but it's crazy. It's a crazy chain, you know? But yeah, but we've been together for almost 3 years, and it's a crazy scene. But yeah, now I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. And I hope you guys are having a great weekend, and I hope people who've gone through a hurricane and like that are cleaning up well. And I hope everybody's doing great, and I'll talk to you guys later. Signing out. Bye, guys.